Hi, how you all doing? Okay, next installment. We are up to 2000 when the Republicans were in town. Good memories. I have a letter 519. The HUD acknowledges and supports the GAO report, the General Accounting Office report, that houses should be treated as if there was no subsistence and the owner should be paid as if the house had no subsistence, and relocation monies should be guaranteed. In fact, several times they have handed me booklets that say when a public agency acquires your property. And again, after further contact with my government officials, they're all assuring me the government will pay you. We just need the money. We'll get it. Don't worry about it. It's coming from the federal government. Don't worry about it. And of course, there's been all sorts of articles alluding to, housing and urban development block grants and all sorts of money being provided by the congressmen and the senators from Pennsylvania. They are also named in my lawsuit. Also, the office of the President of the United States. Now, at any time, these public officials could have settled with me, gotten me the money, and then I wouldn't have had to sue the government. But now that I am in suit with the government, if you see video number 1 describing treason, treason is when the government is not there for the people. If they know of a violation, the oath of office says if they know of a violation to the Constitution, they are to protect and defend the Constitution. So taking someone's house is a violation of the Constitution. Holding them in limbo is a violation of the Constitution. There are several laws, which I will go over in a later video, which are also violations. And currently, the lawyers for the government in my lawsuit are asking the court to throw this trial out, because if it goes to a jury, they anticipate thousands of cases, which is quite accurate, because in 2012 of December, the city of Philadelphia took over 2,000 properties, and they weren't just in Logan. So imagine what is going on in the city of Philadelphia. But we condemned the Russians. In fact, our own mayor, when he was over with the Pope, condemned the Russians for taking property in the Ukraine. But yet, our government's been taking citizens' property forever and not paying them for it, which is in violation of the Constitution. And in fact, the U.S. Attorney General is supposed to investigate this and has been requested to investigate, and tells me personally, a gentleman identified as the District U.S. Attorney General for the Philadelphia District. On the phone, the gentleman identified himself as Mr. Kaufman, told me that I don't have a right to ask him to investigate. It isn't my job. He cited some rule that the government has that he can choose what he wants to look into. It's not illegal until he chooses to look into it. I find that fascinating. I really find that fascinating. And if you're a citizen, you should find that fascinating too. Okay, CNN.com, stadiums and more money for Osage Avenue. A denial letter from the ACLU. A Civil Liberties Union doesn't want to represent Americans that are having their civil liberties taken away. Civil liberties, right to own property. They don't want to represent. Another interesting fact. 2 of 03 Inquirer articles showing zoning change to multi-use. Even though the city claims that the land is unbuildable, and that they want to turn it into a park. The city changed the zoning to multi-use. Now remember the mall plans in the earlier videos. Multi-use means mall. Hello? Follow the money. Army Corps of Engineers said a blight certification on the larger area in Logan so that they can enlarge the area and take more homes. If they give you a blight certification, be very scared. It is a government tool to take your house. Your neighbor, my house was a couple blocks from Roosevelt Boulevard, Route 1, and Broad Street. It is prime urban land. It seems like the city is grabbing properties in prime urban land, not in neighborhoods that are bad, neighborhoods that are strategically located. Okay, now, Mr. Danahill had several meetings with the Dark Green at Tasco's office. And Mr. Green replaced Ms. Frazier, who also worked at Tasco's office. Mr. Danahill started suspecting that the government was not being fair to him, even though he was assured by all these people that they were going to take care of him, he was going to get paid, he was on the list. But I was at the bottom of the list, remember, when the Republicans were in town. The absolute truth hurts absolutely. Mr. Danahill contacted lawyers who then contacted the city and realized that they were not going to get paid and they declined representation. In addition, the lawyers told Mr. Danahill that since the city had not violated the agreement, just because they haven't paid him yet, didn't mean that they could sue because the city hasn't paid him yet. The city had already guaranteed that they would pay interest on the sum, and property values were going up. So they said not to worry, the city will pay you. They can't get around it because we have a constitution. Read your constitution. They hope you don't. Mr. Danahill contacted Institute of Justice. Mr. Danahill has letters from John Petro at the Redevelopment Authority. Oh, Mr. Green instructed Mr. Danahill that he would refer this to the Redevelopment Authority, the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, because they would pay him. Then Mr. Danahill was communicating with the Redevelopment Authority. Mr. Danahill went to lawyers at Legal Aid, which were little letters that were stuffed in the packets of information that they sent, and it was told that so many people from Logan came to the Legal Aid, and the Legal Aid had determined that they didn't want to get involved with it. So they had assured the city to quit putting their paperwork in with their notices. 21304 Philadelphia Tribune. When tax-hungry public officials in Pennsylvania team up with land-hungry private developers, remember them all? Innocent homeowners and businesses standing in the way are likely to get mugged City Hall style. This is in an article. Landowners once trusted the government to respect the Constitution. Does that sound familiar? Did I say that earlier? During the 50s, development grants from Uncle Sam to tear down sections and encourage land development on confiscated land. Confiscated land. Land taken without being paid for. Sound like my case. changed regulations in 54 to public use for a public purpose. So they they twisted the words of the Constitution. The Constitution's a binding contract between the government and the people. The people hired the government. Now, this is critical for the way you need to think about your government. The people hired the government and set strict guidelines of what they could or couldn't do. So if you hire a contractor and he is not doing things that are in the contract, is he allowed to change the contract to what he wants to do? I don't think so. The framers of the Constitution would not allow it. And by the way, this story occurs in Philadelphia at the federal courthouse, which is right on Independence Mall. So these people should be ashamed of themselves. Right on top of the very graves of the people that sacrificed to write the document, they are trashing the document. Notice from a collection agency. They want to repossess my property because the city thinks that I owe them money. Now, these are fees that they were supposed to take care of, but they evidently didn't even pay themselves. Okay. I could see we have about one more minute. A press release from Congressman Bob Brady and Senator Specter and Congressman Chaka Fattah, who is still serving, announcing the federal money is for a different set of sinking homes. Now we're bailing out a second set of sinking homes in another section of the sea. But we still haven't paid for the first set of sinking homes that we took from people. They're going to help me. They keep telling me they're going to help me. You want to buy a bridge in Brooklyn?